Good evening, everybody. It is August 11th at 7 p.m. It is our first Board of Education meeting of this new academic year. And so, Ms. Cavallero, can you please establish our quorum?
Of course. President Householder,
Here.
Vice President Lewis,
Present.
Trustee Hack,
I'm here.
Trustee Hernandez,
Present.
Trustee Rocha,
Here.
all present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Cavallero. And then we're going to do next the flag salute. I have a little flag, so I'll lead us in the flag salute this time. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next up we have item C, which is approval of the minutes for the regular Board of Education meeting of April 28th. So is there a motion on this item?
I so move to approve the board meetings from April 28th.
Motion made by Trustee Dr. Lewis. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Hernandez. Ms. Cavallero, can you call the roll?
Yes, Trustee Hack,
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
President Householder,
Yes.
Vice President Lewis,
Yes.
Trustee Rocha.
Yes.
The motion to approve the Board of Education minutes the minutes from the Board of Education meeting on April 28th, 2021 passes 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Cavallero. Next up, same thing, approval of the minutes for regular Board of Education meeting, except this one was for our May 12th, 2021 meeting. So is there a motion on this?
I move approval.
Moved by Trustee Rocha. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Trustee Hernandez. Ms. Cavallero, can you call our roll? Ms. Cavallero, I think you might be on mute.
Trustee Hack,
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
President Householder,
Yes.
Vice President Lewis,
Yes.
Trustee Rocha.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion to approve the minutes for the regular Board of Education meeting of May 12th, 2021 passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next up, we have our superintendent report. Pass
Well,
it
good
over to
evening.
Susan.
Good evening. I just want to thank our families and staff for an amazing opening. I know it was pivoting and just learning a whole new system with putting safety protocols in place, but our families have been amazing and our staff has just gone above and beyond to make sure that they were there to do all of this. So thank you to them. I also want to give you an update. We have our virtual academy, which we anticipated might have about 400 students, and currently it's almost double that. And we are taking students not only from AUSD, of course, they have priority for admittance, and all AUSD students are welcome, but we also have students coming from Oakley, Walnut Creek, Lafayette, and Knightson. And we currently have a wait list of 35 students. Once we have the staff to manage that, we will let them in from other districts. But yeah, just thank you to all the staff who, although they weren't prepared to have 800 students, just really have gone above and beyond. So great job to all of them. And also, although embargoed, our CASP scores, which is our California Assessment of Student Performance, we've seen the data and it's very, very positive, especially during a pandemic. I can't share the actual numbers right now because it's embargoed, but I am excited to share that information when it's public. So with that, I just want to say welcome to the new school year. Looking forward to a great one, and thank you all so much.
Yay. Thank you so much, Superintendent Anello, and to everybody who's been working tirelessly to get our kids back in the classroom. I've been hearing great things too, so thank you. Next up, we have our public comment. So this is individuals to address the board regarding items not on the agenda, and this is from the general public. So do we have comments?
We do.
Wonderful. Take it away.
I will go and get started. Okay, Patricia Granados, community member. Will we ever have a different superintendent? Someone that doesn't request a contract renewal every so often and doesn't request consistent pay raises. I remember last year during the pandemic, there was a motion for a raise for a senior official. The only ones with some ethical standards that voted against that raise were Crystal White and Ellie Householder. Antioch needs someone that does not misuse funds meant for students. Stephanie Anello, I'm waiting to see all contracts with you and your partner's friend. Give me the $50,000 plus back to the students. Instead, you choose to contract an extremist to write positive news about the district. Is Mike Burkholder even qualified for public affairs work? What education does he have? The pages and podcasts he runs should alarm the community. I'm still waiting for the itemized list you contracted him to do. Also, anyone in public service should, at minimum, have a few bachelor's degrees or a master's degree to have the salary of a superintendent. Let's raise community standards in everyone's education. Thank you. Jessica Valdivia, community member. I want to just express the amount of respect and appreciation my family and I have for Stephanie Anello. She has done amazing at handling one of the most challenging and trying times to the human race and getting out students the tools needed for their education to not skip a beat. The fact that we have the option to safeguard our kids if we as parents feel like it is what gives me peace, knowing my 5-year-old isn't vaccinated and can't be yet, is not exposed to the virus. I've never felt more proud of our district being able to witness how under Anello's leadership, we have met these obstacles and overcame them. I know she has our students' best interest, and to me, I feel as if she is personally taking care of them. I saw her first day of school outside the district office. She was out there helping parents, taking applications for Thomas Gaines, and just having that personal touch that made me feel it will be okay. And every parent and student has a right and a voice. So do not seek personal or financial gains to try and discredit Stephanie's love for this district or paint her as someone who is lacking. More so, look at your own agendas as trustees and remember we, the community, put you in those seats. Don't mess up the good we have with Stephanie Anello. Name not provided, community member. As a parent of a child who is immunocompromised, I am so grateful to the hard work and innovation that Superintendent Anello has provided to the Antioch community with the opening of our virtual academy. I understand the academy has grown to over 700 students, many coming from other districts. I am proud to have my child be part of this adventure, proud to be part of a school district who not only says they care about students, but puts that care into action to offer real solutions to families in need as a result of the pandemic. And I'm proud to be a parent of a student of the founding class of Thomas Gaines. Thank you, Superintendent Anello, leadership, and Board of Trustees for supporting this endeavor. Lindsay Amezcua, community member. Good afternoon, AUSD Board and Superintendent Anello. I am writing in today as a concerned parent that considering removing my children completely from AUSD. I have to question the integrity of a board that is run by someone that is under suspicion of Brown Act violations and political corruption. From a young age, we teach our children the importance of rules and respect, of personal accountability, and of consequences. If our elected officials are not held to the standard of which we hold our children, what example are we setting? A censure was not enough previously. A resignation is the only acceptable outcome because it is apparent that we cannot trust the decision-making of our president. Please do the right thing. Laura, community member. AUSD Board of Education, I am sure you have all seen the information that was released through the share order stating a Contra Costa County Superior Court judge found probable cause that board president, Ellie Householder, who is also the city clerk, and the mayor of Antioch potentially engaged in criminal conduct and Brown Act violations. This is a serious allegation that shouldn't be taken lightly, and I urge you not to sweep it under the rug. With the political corruption units for the DA's office and the FBI involved, this is sure to be a messy distraction that we don't need, especially now when our students are just getting back to school. It has been obvious for some time that President Householder pushes the boundaries on what is acceptable behavior by an elected official, and who knows what else will be revealed during the investigation. Please do what is best for the students of Antioch and at a minimum, vote to have Ms. Householder step aside as board president while this mess gets sorted out. Dr. Lewis can take over the role for now. Thank you for your time. Michelle M., community member. As a community member, it saddens me to hear negative things about our school board president. She has done so much for our students. She's actually present and is actually involved compared to our previous president and leaders. Rather than focusing on personal issues, the focus should be on our students first and foremost. Thank you, Ellie, for all that you do. You have all my support, and so do my family and friends. Keep up the amazing work. Candace L., community member. Our school board president is the best president we ever had. We support you, Ellie. Terry Johnson, community member. Showing support for President Ellie Householder. Thank you for all the good work you're doing for our kids. Name not provided, community member. AUSD was recently featured on KRON 4 this week for their amazing efforts in opening a virtual academy. No other district is doing this, and if they are doing it as well as we are. I would like to applaud district leadership and Stephanie Anello in particular for her work on this. It's nice to see AUSD recognized for the great work that has occurred with Ms. Anello at the helm. Velma Wilson, community member. Good evening and welcome back to the 2021-22 school year. Thank you to every district staff, administrators, teachers, and classified staff that has just been going above and beyond to make sure our schools open safely. Always know that I, Velma Wilson, has your back. Make sure you join your school PTA to support the advocacy work we do to support you. If you need assistance, please contact me directly at velma@32nd, so 32ndpta.org. Good job to Clarissa on hosting her 9th annual school supply giveaway last Saturday. An estimate of 3,800 students were served and received school supplies. Remember to mask up, get vaccinated, and encourage students 12 and over to get vaccinated. Go to myturn.ca.gov to find a location near you. God bless you, and I am and forever will be #loud, proud AUSD. Velma Wilson representing Velma Wilson. This is the final comment for item 3A. Oh, sorry, 3B, staff member. Is it okay to go ahead and go there, Kelly, or do I need to wait?
So if that was the last one, I'd be happy to.
For community member, we have
Okay.
staff for item 3B.
All right, so that concludes our general public comments on items not agendized from the public. And now Ms. Betancourt's going to read some comments from same thing, non-agendized item, but for district employees.
Thanks, President Householder. Staff member, as a seasoned teacher in AUSD, I was very nervous about the return to in-person and what that might mean for us who are in the classrooms. But true to form, Stephanie Anello has led the district in the right direction and ensured staff and student safety is our top priority, and that we as teachers have been given the support, the professional courtesies, and the care to meet the needs of students in the classroom. Thank you to Ms. Anello and her leadership team for a great first week of school. Stephanie, name not given, staff. Stephanie Anello is an incredible leader, and AUSD and the city of Antioch are lucky to have her. Thank you for all of your hard work and dedication, Superintendent Anello. And that concludes staff public comment.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Betancourt. So moving along to district reports, which we don't have any this evening. Next up, we have our hearings, which we don't have any this evening either. Item 6, public presentations. We don't have any. Item 7, consent items. We have a lot, but folks know that these are continuing contracts. But is there any that we would like to pull, either to vote on separately, that we would like to have a discussion, or just even to note something if there's something interesting?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Trustee Rocha?
I'd like to abstain on number R, so I'd like to just make that notion.
Perfect. So we'll pull R for a separate vote.
And President Householder, we do have one public comment attached to 7T.
Okay, 17.
7 as in T as in toy.
Oh, okay, cool. Are there any other ones that folks want to pull for discussion, or I'm seeing none. So why don't we go ahead and have the public comment be read, and then we'll vote on the consent minus R and then R, or however order the board wants to do it. But let's hear that public comment for item T, which is job description, senior director, special education compliance.
Great, thank you. Cindy Mudge, staff. As a community member, it saddens me to hear negative things about our school board president. She has done so much for our students. She's always present and is actually involved compared to our previous president and leaders. Rather than focusing on personal issues, the focus should be on our students first and foremost. Thank you, Ellie, for all that you do. You have all my support, and so do my family and friends. Keep up the amazing work.
Thank you. I think that might have mistakenly been noted as a consent item. I think that would probably be more.
There is an, excuse me, this is Kelly. There is a public comment for item T.
Oh yeah, can we read that one?
I'm guessing Ms.
Kelly,
Beck, we're looking for it.
Kelly, I apologize. The comment that I have on my email for 7T is what I just read from staff member Mudge.
Oh, my apologies. I thought it was something different. My apologies.
Okay, so this is that, I know it was probably tagged accidentally to 7T by staff member Mudge. There is no other comments then for that item?
The comment from Ms. Mudge was the only one for item T that I was aware of.
Perfect. Thank
And
you.
I apologize. I didn't read any of the public comments prior, so I'm gonna have to rely on you. So sorry.
No need to apologize. It happens. And I think what's important is that we got to hear from the public. So even if it's out of order. So with that, we're going to be pulling item, I believe it was R, for a separate vote. And so I would entertain a motion on the rest of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Make a motion to approve the consent items minus the ones you mentioned.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, so motion made by trustee Hack to approve the consent calendar minus item R as in rain. And then that was seconded by trustee Dr. Lewis. And so Ms. Cavallaro, may we please have a roll call?
Yes, trustee Hack,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
president Householder,
Yes.
vice president Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Rocha.
Yes.
The motion to approve all consent items excluding item R, classified human resources report 2021-22-1 passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. And so that leaves item R, which, as Ms. Cavallaro said, is the classified human resources report. Trustee Rocha wanted to abstain on this, so I would entertain a motion.
I motion to approve item R.
Motion made by trustee Hernandez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Dr. Lewis. Ms. Cavallaro, can you call the roll?
Yes, trustee Hack,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
president Householder,
Yes.
vice president Lewis,
Oh, yes.
trustee Rocha.
Abstain.
The motion to approve the classified human resources report 2021-22-1 passes 4-0 with trustee Rocha abstaining.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cavallaro.
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
May I just quickly say, Ms. Cavallaro, during our next item, can you please check that staff member comment? It didn't have anything to do with the item. Not that I'm opposed to the comment, but I just want to make sure that we are quoting the right people when we make comments. Since it seems like there was a little bit of a fuddle.
Yeah, I will double check that and my apologies.
Nope, no apology needed. Thank you.
Yeah, and when in doubt, we can always just put it in the general, you know, because what matters is that we're hearing from them. So first up we're now in section 8, which is our action items. First up, pretty exciting, 2021-22 45-day budget revise that we were promised back in June. And so I assume that I'm turning this over to our Deputy Superintendent, Jessica Romeo.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The Education Code 42127 states that all districts have no later than 45 days after the governor signs the Annual Budget Act to make for review any revisions in the revenues and expenditures that we make to our budget as a result of the funding made available by the state. This report does not need to be provided to either the county office or to the state, but the public does need to have an opportunity to look at it. The governor signed the budget on June 28th, 2021, so the 45 days ends tomorrow. And so we are bringing this forward to the board this evening. Some of the major fiscal impact to AUSD, and I think I briefly mentioned in the budget that this was coming, but now we have put some dollar amounts to it. There has been an increase in the funding for concentration grant. The board will recall we used to receive 50% on top for all of our unduplicated count students. That has now increased to 65%, and that is $3.7 million to Antioch Unified. There was an increase in our special education revenue of approximately from $625 per ADA to $715. That's $983,000. And then finally, there was an increase in ACES funding, of which many of our schools receive ACES funding. That's our after-school program of $168,000. That is an increase to our revenues of $4.85 million. We have accounted for some additional expenses, but there will, of course, be some more coming forward. We have increased our teacher staffing because, as was mentioned earlier, Thomas Gaines has been twice as much as we anticipated, not all of which can be offset at the school site because, again, they don't come in nice little packages. So we have seen an increase of about 10 teachers to our allocation. That is broken up by salaries for certificated teachers and benefits. We have purchased some additional technology as well as PPE, in particular, the finding or the press conference this morning, we will have to do some more testing. So we were already well on our way to ordering that. So we were anticipating that happening, and we had already included that in our budget. And we have had an increase in our services and other operating expenses in special education contracts, as well as our crossing guards that were not in the original contract. So our expenses have increased approximately $3.5 million. Our new revenues and expenses, if you look down to the bottom line, is approximately an increase to the budget at the bottom line of $1.1 million. That has been put for the designation for structural deficit, and we will be looking at where that money will go out in expenses. But remember, a lot of the money that we got this year is one time, and we need to account for that in future years. So this is the location where we can do that, and the board can make decisions as we go forward. Next slide, please. Another big change in the budget had to do with cash flow and deferrals. One thing is to be promised the money. The second part is, when are you going to actually receive the money? And so the board will recall back when the 2021 budget was enacted, they were anticipating $13 billion in deferred funding. In the governor's budget in January of 21-22, that was reduced to 3.7. In the May revised, it was reduced once again to only 2.6 million. But when the budget was actually enacted, there are no cash deferrals in the budget for the 21-22 school year. So that's very good news for us. The budget also addressed the cash flow and deferrals from the 2021 budget. And so we were due to be repaid the deferrals over the course of November to actually from August to November. And that is all being repaid to us this month. So we will be completely caught up on deferrals by the end of August of 2021. I do want to remind the board a little bit of the ADA analysis because the 21-22 is, for all intents and purposes, I mean, I know we have all of the protocols and safety, but for ADA, we return to normal. So we have been held harmless both on our enrollment and on our ADA, being the average daily attendance. So this year, we're still being funded on 19-20. We were funded on 19-20 last year, but in 22-23, we will be funded on the new ADA as well as the new enrollment numbers for last year. So we need to realize that that is going to have an impact on our funding for LCFF, lottery, and mandate block grant. Across the state, school districts have seen a decrease in kindergarten registration, and that has hit us as it has every other district. So we will see a decline there. I don't want to lose track of the fact that we still have the additional funding coming in through ESSER 3. That money will not be recognized in the budget until it's received, but I will be bringing forward to the board in October a plan, an expenditure plan. And at that point, you will see that in the budget. But right now there is an additional 30 million that has not been recognized because it's not yet received, nor has the board adopted a plan for its expenditures. There are a whole host of other additional funding, which we're calling in progress. It's hard to recognize them because the state has not yet adopted resource codes. But I did want the board to be aware of what those are. Some we have in actual dollars, some we are still waiting for. So there is a California pre-kindergarten planning and implementation grant that invests about $300 million into funding to prepare for pre-kindergarten, that's your TK. We are estimated to receive about $149,000 in the 21-22 school year. They've also adopted the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, and that is different from the ELO grant that you saw last year. This is an additional funding source in the 21-22. It is solely for before and after school or summer sessions. There is a lot of restrictions around how you can use this and what you must do. It must increase the length of day for students, and it follows most of the rules of the ACES grant. We're estimated to receive about $3.8 million and are looking at how to put that into place in Antioch to best serve our students who maybe right now do not have the ACES funds available. There also is a special education early intervention preschool grant. There are portioned to districts based on, targeting focus on services being offered in inclusive settings. And for Antioch Unified, that's about $572,000. It is approximately $5,900 per student within that age group. A to G Completion Improvement Grant Program provides for funds of statewide about $547 million. This allocation is based on your unduplicated enrollment count, grades 9 through 12, and we are anticipated to receive approximately $1.4 million. There have been two pots of funding for COVID-19 special education, and we do not yet know the amounts to Antioch because that money will flow through our SELPA, and the first SELPA meeting is coming up this month. Approximately $125 per pupil for the first pot and $564 per student for the second pot. The first one is intended to help with the lost for the last year and a half and how to help families and students through the due process and or mediation, but to try to get those moving forward. And as the board saw in our job description, we are looking to restructure to have a position that could really work with our families and our staff to make that successful. And then the second portion is for learning recovery services for our students. Next slide, please. There are some additional fundings. The Educator Effectiveness Grant, we do not know the amount to Antioch, but it is for training content areas, including coaching and induction, standard aligned instructions, and literacy improvement. We have a teacher residency grant program. The actual details of that have not yet been sent out, but it's targeted for your shortage areas such as special education, bilingual education, science, and TK, all of which is a shortage in our district, just like most other people in the state of California. There is an investment into teachers becoming nationally board certified. We do in our district have a stipend available for our national board certified teachers. And then finally, there is an educator investment for classified employees. And what we find that many of our special education aides in particular do move forward into our teaching program, and they are very effective because they are used to working with the students in our district, and it helps them get through a program that allows them to teach. The last funding source has gotten quite a lot of attention in the news. We are providing 2 meals a day for our students. You do not have to show eligibility. They are available to all students in California. And there is a one-time grant of about $25,000 per LEA for equipment upgrades and infrastructure, which we will be looking into. As we receive the resource codes and the amounts for each additional funding, we will be incorporating that into our district financials, and that will be reported out to the board in our regular reporting session, our first interim, our second interim, so forth. So the next steps of how you will see the budget is in September. We will bring forward to you the unaudited actuals. That's what actually we believe occurred in 2021 prior to the audit. We will have a year-end audit that's your final in October. In December, we will have our first interim budget, and then our audited financial statement will come to the board in January. And as we do every year, a second interim budget will be brought forward to the board in March. With that, I believe that accounts for all of the changes that have come through the state budget, and I'm available to answer any questions if the board has any.
Great, thank you so much. Since this is super important, why don't we just do round robin like we have, and just if you have comments or questions, and we'll go alphabetical. So I'll start off with Trustee Hack if you have anything, questions or comments.
I have no questions or comments.
Thank you. Trustee Hernandez?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. One, does the increase in enrollment at our Thomas Gaines Academy, how much of an effect is that having on offsetting any potential ADA reduction?
So there's 2 parts. Thomas Gaines is just another school in our district. So it's counting towards our ADA. Many of them are our students. So it's really a transfer from one to the other. We will look at the total number. Again, we're still taking our physically present counts. I'll have that to report to the board after 10 days as to where we are this year compared to where we projected we would be. But there is income in the fact that the other districts, we are working in inter-district agreements, and those are going through the stages with our attorney right now, and that is to receive the money for those students that the other district would have received. We would be receiving that this year. Normally, you wouldn't see that till the next year based on your ADA. But educating this year, we are receiving the funds from those districts for the students that are coming this year.
Great, awesome. And then the other question I had is, I know you said that we are facing, so it's us that are facing the cost of that weekly testing that goes along for any staff or that aren't vaccinated, correct?
Well, there's two parts. We do have testing protocol for our students. If there are any close contacts, we are doing all of the contact tracing that is required. And that does have, there are testing with parent consent for those. But we also have the ongoing testing that will be for our staff members. It's not just teachers, it's all staff in Antioch will either have to show vaccination or go through at least weekly testing for COVID. We had already purchased quite a bit. Again, in anticipation, we did put in another order. There is a way when we need them again that we may be able to get them under a discount or free from the state. But right now we had to, because they implement this tomorrow. So we had to be ready to go when that happened.
Yeah, and then I guess my follow-up and my main question with that is that, so then is our cost to that related to our vaccination rate amongst our staff? And by that, I mean, if we have a high vaccination rate amongst our staff, then this cost goes down a good amount?
That would be true for our staff, yes.
Great, okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to know, where there is potential opportunity for us to maybe save some costs. But that's all the questions that I have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Trustee Hernandez. And then that means that I'm up next. I don't have any questions just because I think, Ms. Romeo, you've done a really good job of preparing us for this. So this just it's just written down in front of us. So I think, this is a fantastic job. I did just want to kind of note as a general comment, mostly to my colleagues, just that I don't know what you all are thinking about when you're going through this, but what I'm thinking about is, okay, this audit's going to have to happen for last year, which is going to be kind of a nightmare because of all these different funding streams. And then also, I mean, all of these additional funding in progress buckets, it's just it's very hopeful, and I'm very optimistic. But I do think that we are in the near future going to need to discuss getting some additional help into the district office in particular to help with the managing of this data. Because, we obviously want, to be as efficient as possible. And then what Trustee Hernandez said too about just looking for opportunities. I think that there is an opportunity for when we start these discussions about these additional funding and how we kind of want to move forward with a lot of the one-time funding, I would hope that maybe we have some ad hocs between two of us as board members that we can talk to Ms. Romeo and Business Services and be able to present to the rest of the board, like a plan or ideas for what to do. And so, yeah, that's just my general comment, is that this is really hopeful. I'm excited, but we also are going to need some more people to help with all of this.
Well, what I forgot to say during my presentation is I have the best in the state, and Ms. Cancio does a wonderful job with her team of making sure that we have that under control. So I do feel that we're in very good hands.
We are in great hands. I mean, look, you all have been able to, you've got us this far, and we've been good. And so, I just want to make sure that we're being sustainable, just with our people, because burnout's going to be something very real, especially since there's been a whole year of this. And I just don't want to, lose any of our people or lose any opportunities because we just didn't have the supports in there. So yeah.
Trustee Hernandez actually hit on one of them. I was going to ask, do we know what sort of the approximate ADA for those students who are coming from outside the district to Thomas Gaines Academy, if we have an approximate number for those. I understand that we don't.
I
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think we do. I don't think
Yeah.
that we do quite yet, but we definitely can provide that to the board. It's going to be significant, not only if the students stay with us through the P1 or P2, then not only will we get ADA this year, even if they go back to their district, we'll get ADA next year. So that's kind of a unique year.
And just,
But we
you know,
can get you that
oh,
number
sorry.
for sure.
And just for the folks listening who may not understand, ADA is the average daily attendance, and that's the dollar amount associated with each individual student who is who's in our district. And then secondarily, I wanted to sort of refer back to what President Householder said. I think one of the ways that we can capture that moving forward, and I know we've had conversations here, is a centralized data tool. I mean, without going into details around that, I think that would be one of the ways that we could capture some of the information, especially when we have these sort of disparate funding streams, because we can tag them and get creative in terms of how we track that dollar in terms of deliverables and all those things.
The tracking is through our business and HR system, so we do have a great tracking system.
Oh, okay.
because the state dictates a lot of that by resource. That's why I talked about resource code. We track it by school, by SSB, by whether or not it's salary, textbooks. All of that is in place in Antioch Unified as it is in most districts in California.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that. So I had a couple questions. So on slide 12, it referenced exceptional needs. Is there a definition of around what exceptional needs refers to or how it's defined?
I'm trying to find it. I believe that is in our special education, and it is identified in the students within the population that are on IEPs on either resource, SDC. It could be other services, but those are identified as our special education students.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then sort of, I guess it's hinted at, I know there's been different sort of mandates coming down from the state around testing, COVID and all these things. But is there any indication, and this is sort of I know that there's not an answer for it before I ask, is there any indication that schools are going to be reimbursed or anything like that for these tests and things like that we have to do for our staff?
I would say that we actually are receiving the money. We have a lot of the one-time money is for these services. So we are able to take it through our in-person learning because the idea was, what is it? It's going to cost you extra in order to bring students back. So we account for that in every one of the funding sources, and there are set parameters of how you can spend that money. So they have given, being the state and the federal government has provided us with some financial resources to help us through this. And that's why I keep reminding the community, the board, cabinet, probably everybody that walks in my office on occasion, that is one-time money that was for specific purposes that we knew eventually we were going to have to use for those services. So I'm hoping that more will be coming if this continues for a longer period of time. But I do feel right now we do have the one-time resources to help with that. It's some of it is more around is the being able to purchase it all because some of it is back ordered, but also being able to track and the human part of what comes with that. Contact tracing is is very time consuming. Very necessary, but there are people who have to do that work.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to make it clear, and I sort of set the stage so that way we can understand and we can relay the message to the public that this isn't coming out of our general fund.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that was sort of the thinking behind that question. So that way, we can relay that to the public that it's not coming out of those funds dedicated to COVID testing, contact tracing, and all that stuff is coming out of those one-time fund and not our general fund. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Trustee Dr. Lewis. I think that is, as much as we can underscore that for the public, the better. So I appreciate that. And then we'll pop over Trustee Rocha.
My only comment is that I think our superintendent has done a very good job in giving us information. I'm not sure that the ad hoc committee is necessary because she brings in the ideas that we all want to hear. Second, and I'm sure that if we want data, it's there, as our assistant superintendent said. So those things came up as I heard about cumulative data. So other than that, I think that we're doing a great job, and I know we have to watch that money because it's on a one time, and one time money comes is exactly what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
And
then
again, just as a closure, I want to thank the business services team for all their hard work in putting this together to present to the community.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's changing all the time. So I appreciate that too. Before we take action on this, we all had a lot to say. So I just wanted to pause for a quick second in case anybody has follow-ups. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So this is an action item. So I would entertain a motion on this item.
I move
I move-
approval. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I move approval of
go ahead.
the budget revision.
Right, so motion made
second.
by trustee Rocha, seconded by trustee Dr. Lewis to approve the 2021-22 45-day budget revision. So Ms. Cavallero, can you call the roll for us, please?
Yes, trustee Hack,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
president Householder,
Yes.
vice president Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Rocha.
Yes.
The motion to approve the 45-day budget revision passes 5-0.
Thank you so much.
And trustee Householder, before we go on to the next item, is it possible for me to correct the error that was made earlier regarding the 2 public comments that,
Absolutely.
okay, so it does appear that 2 comments did get merged. One person was attributed for the comment that, incorrectly for the comment that that Director Bettencourt read. That comment was by Michelle M. My apologies to Michelle M. for that. And Cindy Mudge did provide a comment for item T. Is it okay if I read that one now?
Please do, please.
And again, my apologies to Ms. Mudge as well. Hello, my name is Cindy Mudge. I have been fortunate enough to have been a teacher for 35 plus years. 25 of those years have been spent here in AUSD as a special education teacher. Last year, I moved into a new position and currently serve as a program specialist with the special education department. I wish I could send my passion and enthusiasm through this reading. I am one of many people that work to meet the individual needs of students. Over the time of my service, I have seen service and legal issues grow. When I first started, the paperwork was short. The legal issues were few and far between. Over time, the number of students we serve has increased. The number of programs developed to meet the various needs of our students has increased, and the paperwork has become longer and more technical. This brings me to why I am reaching out to you tonight. In item T, you are being asked to approve a position for an administrator to oversee the department's, oh, my apologies, I'm going to have to, it's going off my screen. Please hold for one moment. You're being asked to approve a position for an administrator to oversee the department's compliance issues. I am hopeful that you will see that special education staff members are being stressed in many directions. Filling this position would help us all to make sure that we are meeting the technical issues presented in many of our IEPs. Please approve this position. And that's the end of that comment, and my apologies to Ms. Mudge.
No, thank you for reading it, and thank you, Ms. Mudge, for sending in that comment. I'm glad we did approve it. And so with that, now that we cleared up a little technical glitch with our public comments, item B, which is our service agreement with Donna Brosen, I believe, who's going to be a consultant on behalf of Fremont Elementary School. And so I think maybe Superintendent Anello.
Actually, this would be Miss Samara.
Superintendent Ibarra.
Good evening, board. It's great to see you all. This is, I don't know if you recall, but last year Fremont was awarded a grant, and this is here simply because this is a new vendor. They will be utilizing this person to provide professional development to the teachers on the professional development days, focused on literacy.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And, you know, for folks listening, anytime we get new vendors, action item, anytime it's a vendor that we're continued working with, it tends to be on consent. So that's just why this is down here. And so is there questions, comments, or a motion? Or all of those things too.
I move approval.
All right, motion to approve made by trustee Rocha. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Hernandez. Ms. Cavallero, can you call the roll?
Yes, trustee Hack,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
president Householder,
Yes.
vice president Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Rocha.
Yes.
The motion to approve the services agreement with Donna Bronzen Consultant passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. Next up, item C, service agreement with Supported Life Institute Communication Technology Educational Contract. So I'm going to pass this over to Ms. Ibarra again.
Yes, so this one also is another new vendor, and it's to provide a independent education evaluation for one of our special education students. So I ask that you approve.
I just have one question with this one, and it's just out of more curiosity. Is it a part of, or can it be a part of the IEP to have a choice in who would do, you know, your assessment, or because, you know, this is a new vendor, and so I'm just curious because it seems like this is probably just for one student, right?
Yes.
So is it a part of their IEP?
Parents have that, they have the authority to request an independent evaluation, and there is an approved list by which parents select the person that they would like to work with.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So there's a whole list. Sometimes they pick the one that we've contracted with and sometimes not. Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions, comments, or a motion?
Also move.
Motion made by trustee Hack to approve the service agreement with Supported Life Institute Communication Technology Education Grant. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Rocha. Ms. Cavallero, can you call the roll?
Trustee Hack,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
president Householder,
Yes.
vice president Lewis,
Yes.
trustee Rocha.
Yes.
The motion to approve the services agreement with Supported Life Institute Communications Technology Education passes 5-0.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Moving right along to section 9, which is items for information, discussion, or action by the board. So first up, we have one from trustee Rocha, which is the alternates for the AUSD City of Antioch Standing Committee. So trustee Rocha.
Thank you. As you know, we've had one meeting already with Dr. Lewis and myself, and that went smoothly, but I don't know at what time do we report. I was going to say, should we not have a report on our agenda on that particular meeting, or is it spontaneous?
I'm thinking that the best place for that is under board member reports about, you know, membership and other events.
Okay, because it ties in with what I'm trying to put in here. First of all, the committee is a very tight committee. At the last resort, we were hoping for a traffic study so we could get our stops for our children that are crossing guards. And as it is, we had asked for support on crossing guards, and that didn't happen. And that's why we had to financially do it ourselves. So that's an issue. Second, because it's important that we continue these meetings and not have to slow them down in any way, I would really like to have an alternate, for our committee of 2. so that if one of us cannot make it, or because of change of schedule, that we always have two people. So I'm suggesting that we put Mr. Hack, Trustee Hack, as the alternate, if that's possible.
Any comments on that from?
Since you mentioned it,
Oh.
I'd be willing to do that.
So Trustee Hack, you're saying that you would be very willing to be the alternate.
Yes.
I guess my only question would be, and I kind of pose this to Superintendent Anello, could there be some potential, I don't want to say like Brown Act violations, but I guess I'm just concerned if there's any, I don't know, potential for there to be really more of a serial meeting than it be like a, a
Well,
directory part. Yeah.
I don't think that's a decision-making body, so I wouldn't think so. If they were actually able to expend district funds without taking it to the larger board, that might be a concern, but given that it's not a decision-making body, they would have to come to you all anyway, as long as only two of them knew each other's opinion about the issue and didn't share. Let's say Ms. Rocha was not able to attend, Mr. Hack attended, he could not go back and talk to Ms. Rocha about what happened. So initial gut, but Ms. Romeo, would you like to weigh in?
That's my initial thought as well. I never like doing that off, 5 minutes of thinking, but I think that analysis made sense. As I think through it, and I'm sure Ms. Anello will as well, if we see any other roadblock, I think there'd be enough time to put that forward to the board. But my initial analysis followed Ms. Anello's.
And that's fine, because it just occurred to me just now. So, and I think that you're right, Ms. Romeo. I was thinking if there does come a point where the subcommittee does get a little bit more action oriented, then maybe, during the report out from our committee members now, or representatives now, you guys can let us know, and we could say an alternate's actually not possible because we're getting to some decision points. And so, yeah, I think we could probably avoid that. Is there any, Trustee Dr. Lewis, Trustee Hernandez, concerns, thoughts?
Well, no, I think it, having an alternate, because in the last meeting, I was hit with heavy traffic coming from Oakland and had to be, a little bit late. So, I think it's important that we have representation, particularly when we're having discussions, because if we have sort of, there needs to be sort of parity in terms of like critical thinking and all that stuff. And at one times, if you're the only person in the room, maybe it's uncomfortable to voice your opinion in a room without an ally. So, and then speaking in perspective, speaking in position from the school district, we all have our particular expertise. So I think that could be helpful, having an alternate in case something happens.
Yeah.
Like,
Trustee Hernandez? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, sorry, I jumped in. Sorry about that.
Jump in.
No, I was just going to kind of see the consensus of the board. It sounds like we have three, but of course, hearing from Ms. Householder and Mr. Hernandez would be wonderful. Sorry.
I am perfectly okay with having an alternate. My only thing with, I wonder if there could be an alternate, like if Trustee Hack can be an alternate for Trustee Rocha, and then maybe Trustee Hernandez for Trustee Lewis. Because just from my recollection from the beginning, when we had this conversation, we wanted a veteran and a new person. So that would be my only thing, but it's also not a deal breaker. I think an alternate's fine too. But Trustee Hernandez, sorry, I skipped over you.
Yeah, I think an alternate sounds good. And, if we like the idea that Trustee Householder just presented, I'm open to that as well. I think maybe I just don't understand logistically how alternate would end up making sense because it's my understanding that you guys kind of work together with the other members of the committee to set a date and time. And so even if something, last minute unexpected, I don't know how easy it is to mobilize another one of us to really fill in that spot. But I do understand that is possible, I guess, to have someone fill in last minute to come in. I think the example that Vice President Lewis gave of like getting caught in traffic, I don't know how easy it'd be to get someone else to get there in time to fill in that need there. Because it sounds like that was part of what maybe inspired some of this discussion here. So that's probably the only like comment that I have on not understanding how the logistics of this would work. But as far as like having an alternate and whatever way we want to do that, I think it's a good idea. Sure.
Yeah, so it's like, it sounds like we're all in agreement, but just the particulars of how to mechanize it, not 100% sure. But Superintendent Anello, do you have any thoughts?
It sounds like I have consensus that there should be an alternate. I don't know if you guys want to take a vote. I think Ms. Rocha, were you talking earlier about perhaps you would have a doctor appointment and you would need to call someone in advance? We're not really talking about emergency.
No,
Correct.
no, we're not talking about emergency. I think that a date is set. What I'm trying to avoid is for this whole idea of being, oh, well, we can't make it after all. We had this date set and something has come up from the family. I have to do this other, so I can't go to the meeting. See, then you would have someone you could back up your person so that you wouldn't have an empty seat and only one person representing. I really think it's important with the city and the school to have two at all times.
So what I've heard so far is that you, Ms. Rocha, would like Mr. Hack. And I've heard that Trustee Dr. Lewis is okay with having whoever, right? Unless I don't want to speak for you. And so perhaps we start with one alternate, and then if you need to, we can go that way. I'm completely flexible. It's up to you. This is your thing. I just need direction.
Yeah, Trustee Dr. Lewis, would you, what, because again, from my perspective, it's the balance of new and old, but really I kind of would default to what you think. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but I think Trustee Rocha really helped conceptualize it. So not being stuck in traffic, but if something comes up with your kids, to be able to tap someone to go in. I don't know. Now I'm thinking of a scenario. What if both of you can't go because of an emergency? So I don't know. Sorry.
In that case, they cancel the meeting because it wouldn't be representatives.
True. Trustee Dr. Lewis?
I think you're on mute.
If I could unmute, that would help, right? I've been doing this for over a year now, so you would think I'd have it under control. So I'm not married to either. I think having the perspective of somebody relatively new on the board versus a veteran, I hesitate to use young and old.
Sorry.
But having a veteran and sort of somebody that's relatively new on the board, I think that could be healthy. And then to the question that was raised, I can't remember who raised it. If there's a situation where there's an emergency where both of us can't be there, Trustee Rocha and neither of us can be there, having an alternative could resolve that, and that way the meeting wouldn't have to be rescheduled. So it's just a matter of making sure that we're all in communication.
What if you were all alternates, right? What if the three of you, just call whoever, if you can't go, you call someone.
I'm not married to either. I think having an alternate, that concept is great. Yeah.
I agree, Stephanie. I think maybe they're both alternates. I don't think I should be though. I would respectfully bow out from that, just given my dual roles. Oh, Trustee Hernandez.
Yeah, I think just for simplicity's sake of simplifying this conversation and kind of speeding things up, I'm going to make a motion to set Trustee Hack as as Trustee Rocha's alternate, and then myself as Dr. Lewis's alternate on the AUSD City Standing Committee.
Beautiful. So a motion made by Trustee Hernandez to appoint Trustee Hack as Trustee Rocha's alternate and to appoint Trustee Hernandez as Trustee Lewis's alternate. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second that. That's a good idea.
seconded by Trustee Rocha. So, Ms. Cavallaro, can you call the roll?
Trustee Hack,
Why not? Yes.
Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
President Householder,
Yes.
Vice President Lewis,
Yes.
Trustee Rocha.
Yes,
The motion to appoint Trustee Hernandez as the alternate for Vice President Lewis, and to appoint Trustee Hack as the alternate for Trustee Rocha for the AUSD City of Antioch Standing Committee passes 5-0.
Wonderful, thank you. Next up, item B, we have superintendent evaluation, and this was brought forth by Trustee Hernandez. So I will pass it over to you.
Great, thank you. And this one really goes along with the next item. I feel like they go really hand in hand. But the reason I brought this forward is just to get us back on a regular schedule, especially as we're getting back into normal. I know typically we try to do an evaluation of the superintendent in June, May time, and we haven't done a board evaluation, at least anything that I could find in a long time. And so it'd be great to get that going around the same time that we do the superintendent evaluation, because we kind of both work hand in hand, and it's good to reflect. So that's kind of why I brought this forward, and would like to figure out what the next steps are to get both those things going.
Yeah, I know that typically we would just have a closed session item for the superintendent evaluation. We haven't done a board self-evaluation, but I would think that we would be able to do both of those, because that's your next item, Trustee Hernandez, is the board self-evaluation. I think we'd be able to do both of those like in a closed session. Trustee Dr. Lewis.
So I think, a board self-evaluation is great. My question would be, did we set any goals to measure our success by? And if not, I think that, so I think that's kind of a place to start. If say, okay, well, we want to accomplish X, this series of things over a period of time. And then we say, okay, well, how effective are we in relation to those goals? I think that could be I think that's an excellent idea. And I don't know that we've done that. I know that we had conversations around, parent engagement, student engagement, and we've had those conversations with the consultants. But I don't know that we've set any goals for our board. So that's my question would be, what would we be evaluating ourselves on?
That would be my question too. What would you be evaluating me on?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are two absolutely different issues. The superintendent's evaluation historically has always happened in June, every year. Whoever the superintendent is, the board does an evaluation process. However, that president establishes that process. We did not do it for last year because of COVID, and the president at that time and the board approved not doing an evaluation last year. We have always done it in June. So theoretically, we should have done something already or begun this process this year. I think the starting point for us to even think about evaluations of the superintendent is to ask the district to give us the documentation. Since Stephanie has been the superintendent for X number of years, every year the board has come up with a document of evaluation. Since we have basically three new board members, or probably or maybe four, have not seen those documents. I have seen them. I wrote a couple of them. I think the first step in terms of the superintendent evaluation is to have the district give us in a Friday board letter or in some manner, so we can look at all the previous evaluations and written what the premise was and the context of it was, and then figure out how to evaluate the superintendent this year, because we're still in a COVID situation. We can't do it obviously in June or July or August, but sometime in the fall, maybe we could do that. I think the board self-evaluation is a totally different animal. So I think as far as the superintendent evaluation, I think a starting point for us just for education is to get the documents that the board has written over X number of years of Stephanie's evaluation. So at least we have a background of what other people have thought, and then start to do the process whenever we can do that.
As the HR person here in the room, if I could jump in for a moment on evaluations, one of the starting points is to set goals for your employee. So I would start with that process, and that does have to happen in closed session. The self-evaluation of the board is an open session. You guys are not employees. So that would not be subject to this closed session. So I just wanted to make sure that that was in the conversation.
Thank you. And it looks like we actually have some public comment.
May I say what Jessica, I agree with her. The process is in closed session. But before we even get into the closed session, I think it might be interesting or educationally to see what previous boards thought. To read and then get into the closed session.
So before we continue this conversation, let's jump over to Ms. Betancourt has some public comments, and then, you know, we can continue the dialogue, but let's hear what the public has to say. So sorry about that, Ms. Betancourt.
That's okay. Thank you, President Householder. Charles Anderson, community member. I see that we have an evaluation of Anello coming up. I just wanted to acknowledge that I, as someone who has a child in the district, do not understand why Anello has accomplished in her tenure as a superintendent. Heck, I have never seen her at any school events when school events were even happening. The community should be a part of this evaluation. Of course, the teachers, principals, and staff of the schools will come to her defense because she is obviously the boss of them. But until I see results, I won't believe any of the staff. Chloe Fielder, community member. I just had my son graduate this past year, and my question to Anello is, where was she? She never showed up. A superintendent that does not show up to graduations is very disappointing, and I thought I liked her. Stephanie, what did you have better to do than showing up for your own students that you claim you care for, but in reality you don't? Kate Jacobson, community member. Last time I checked, Anello has done nothing for the school district. All she does is sit there and think she's doing great things for AUSD. I believe we should get another superintendent, one that actually shows results and cares for the students. Jack Justice, community member. Stephanie Anello is the best superintendent the district has had in the past 16 years. She put together a virtual academy to support the community needs and is being recognized for it. She has even been superintendent of the year. It's time to drop the personal vendetta some board members are involved in. I would like to remind you that even deleted text messages can be recovered under subpoena, as well as Facebook and Twitter messages. Justice will be served sooner or later. I support Stephanie Anello. Lisa, staff. While I understand that evaluations are normal, I am evaluated regularly myself. I cannot understand why the board would choose this moment to discuss evaluating Superintendent Anello. Our students and staff are just now returning to campuses after a year and a half of remote learning. Aren't there more important things for the board to be addressing right now? Since you have already placed this on the agenda, please keep in mind, excuse me, please keep in mind Ms. Anello's incredible leadership, especially during the last year and a half as she has led us through unimaginable and unprecedented times. From her efforts to get distance learning in place at the beginning of the pandemic until now, when she had the forethought to create a virtual academy. Ms. Anello has been a step ahead of every other district in the area while always putting the needs of her students and staff at the forefront. To say she is amazing is such an understatement, and to say AUSD is incredibly lucky to have her as our superintendent is an even bigger understatement. Ms. Anello, thank you for all you do for AUSD. You make me so proud to work here. I apologize, excuse me. Sal Sembrante. School board members. In December, an agenda item regarding an evaluation of the superintendent of schools came up. At that time, there had been a discussion regarding the criteria to be used to evaluate the superintendent. Since December, has a set of performance metrics or evaluation criteria been reviewed with your superintendent of schools? If not, then you should not evaluate this person until all 5 of you come up with an agreed to set of metrics with which to evaluate our school superintendent. And that is the end of public comment for tonight.
Thank you so much, Ms. Betancourt. And so I wanted trustee Dr. Lewis, and then I'm going to pop over to trustee Rocha, and then we'll go trustee Hernandez, because that was the order I saw it in. Sorry if that's not. So trustee Dr. Lewis.
Yeah, so I wanted to be clear. I do think, the board evaluation should happen. I think that, but, in order to do that, I think we should have some guidelines in terms of what we should be measuring ourselves on, because otherwise it's like, okay, well, it gets complicated without those guiding things. And I think that's healthy. I think evaluation should happen. It gives us sort of a point in time, sort of reference to how we're doing in terms of whatever that means. So that's kind of that's actually what my comments were about, were the board evaluation. So.
Thank you. And I think that, I did a disservice by muddling these two together in the beginning, so I apologize. So yeah, we're strictly talking about the evaluation. We've kind of teetered into board self-evaluation, but as Hack noted, these are two entirely separate things. So I apologize. Trustee Rocha.
I think what happened is the pandemic got in the middle of this, but we do have a contract with the superintendent. I believe that it says that we must evaluate her in the spring and then come to an end by June. I'm not sure, but I think that was the process. And I agree with Trustee Hack that we got into the situation where we weren't in school and things weren't happening and we were kind of distant, that we ended up passing that part. And I wondered if we shouldn't just wait until the spring and meanwhile get ourselves together and meet with the superintendent and put some goals together.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yeah, and I think that's the way that I was thinking and approaching it. I think about things like this very much from a quality improvement standpoint. And so one of the things, how I'd like to see this process go, especially given some of the other input, is it would be great to set, the goals that we want to evaluate the superintendent on in the future. And I'd like, I think it'd be very helpful for us to be able to apply those values retroactively over the past year and say, how is that going so far? So that the superintendent has a better benchmark for, is there things that she needs to improve on? It's entirely possible, we set a set of goals and it's things that, when we look at the past year, the superintendent has already done fantastically on, and having that information is probably very helpful for the superintendent to know that, hey, I'm already hitting the mark on these things. Whereas the other situation could happen, let's say we set a set of goals and over the past year, maybe those marks haven't been hit. Knowing that those ones haven't been hit can help prepare the next year for improvements that need to be made on those specific pieces. And so, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the idea of maybe like waiting, but I definitely agree with the idea of like setting goals and being able to kind of apply those retroactively to use that as a tool for, what I think we're all a little bit more in agreement in, that like next spring is going to be what's more like a real back to normal regular like evaluation that we're all used to.
And Trustee Lewis, I see that your hand is raised, but I do just want to offer up an idea, because we are talking, as Ms. Romeo said, this is an HR issue. So we're kind of dangerously dancing close to speaking about an individual rather than an evaluation overall. To me, I've heard that there is a desire to make some goals at the very least. So my idea would be then, if we could continue this conversation in a closed session, maybe we could give ourselves, let's say, an hour, maybe 45 minutes at our next meeting to discuss. And then, because I think that we all brought up really good ideas, but I kind of just don't want to I just don't want to let this could snowball and it could be very not kind. So I don't know. Trustee Dr. Lewis, sorry. You can.
I think that's a healthy position. What I was going to ask, just for sort of clarity in terms of quality improvement, Trustee Hernandez, what I'm understanding, and this is just for clarity, what I'm understanding you say is we would set a sort of some goal. We would do goal setting, and then retroactively understand where the superintendent is, and then use that as sort of a benchmark to gauge success for next year. Is that an accurate understanding of what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. Yes.
So it's almost like superintendent evaluation almost feels like it's doing a disservice to what we're actually talking about. It's like benchmark setting, quality improvement. So it does seem a little bit, yeah, like I just don't want to put superintendent evaluation as a closed session item if that's, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it's capturing it fully.
Well, maybe have it as goal setting, superintendent goal setting. Because it's not an evaluation. We're not discussing, if I'm understanding correctly, the goal of that meeting would not be to say, you know, this the superintendent is doing well or not. It's these are the things that we are going to use as benchmarks for success. And then we're going to have a conversation in open session around whether those things are, or where we are in relation to those things, and use that next year, if I'm understanding you correctly, Trustee Hernandez, as the benchmark for an evaluation in the spring. Is that fairly accurate?
Yes, I think so.
And I think too, couldn't we also come up with our own timeline when we talk in closed session? Like we might come up with, you know, something else. I don't know. I just don't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we're bound by the contract. The contract does
100%,
stipulate. Yeah. So the contract stipulates when and how we do evaluation. So
it could almost. I'm just thinking about the linguistic aspect of it. So is there consensus to add this, give ourselves an hour to the next meeting as a closed session item to discuss goal setting? I still don't want to use the word evaluation, but that's the word that's used in the contract. So I do feel like it should be superintendent evaluation, goal setting, and goal setting. I don't know. What do you guys think? Trustee Rocha, I see that you're unmuted.
To me, I'm sorry. To me, in the past, it seems that it was discussed by both. There was goals that were set, and then discussed with the superintendent to see if that was, and she would bring up other issues, and then we'd come to an understanding, and then that's what we would use. For me, I would think it would be in the spring for evaluation.
So
that has been a process in the past, that in the school year, we would come up with some criteria, talk about it, do a document, have the discussion, and write it, something official and sign it off, that type of thing. I think maybe one, I mentioned this earlier, to get some of the previous documents that Ms. Nandel has already been evaluated on, which is a private document, cannot be shared with the public. It's just for our view as a board to see what other boards did and the process of it, and then go forward somewhere down the road to set it up.
right, that makes sense. Trustee Dr. Lewis?
I was going to say, I think Trustee Hack, I think that is an excellent point, because we can use that to inform the conversation that we have for our goal setting. And then it's sort of a level set based on, you know, yeah, I think that idea is great.
Yeah, I think that it's a great idea. I think it's a little bit more granular. I'm kind of just wanting to know if there is a consensus to have a closed session, and it sounds like there is, but I wanted to go to Trustee Hernandez as well, just to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds good to me that, yeah, let's set some goals. I think that's somewhere that I'd like to be at is with some goals.
All right, so then let's add superintendent evaluation / goal setting, or you can just say evaluation because Trustee Rocha brought up a good point. That's what we've called it before. So just say superintendent evaluation, and we can just think about us being like a couple months late on this. But
Madam Chair, I don't think we need to use evaluation because that brings up a lot of issues for people.
That's what I was thinking.
And I would just say goal setting. You discuss the goal setting, and then it's discussed with the superintendent, and she either goes along with it or disagrees or brings her own. And then we mesh them, and that's what we start with.
Perfect.
And I think that's the appropriate introduction to the process. but I do not think it should be tied into a regular board meeting. It should be a separate meeting, which the only purpose of that meeting, will be closed, of course, is to start that process. To do it prior to an open meeting, it's just gonna, I don't know how long that process will take. It may take 10, 20 minutes, it may take 3 hours. To tie it into a regular meeting, I think is not effective. So I would think we need to, if we're gonna go that way, to have a separate meeting to talk strictly about what we're just talking about now. It's all confidential, it's all private, and then have your regular board meeting as you always do.
I think that's a good point. So
I agree.
maybe we can get a doodle poll going of our availability. I would just ask if we can maybe try to start at 5. Just, I don't want, this is overtime for folks. That's typically why I'm just like, let's just add it on. But either way, if we want to make it at 7, then that's our prerogative. So Superintendent Anello, do you have a clear sense of what we're asking? Okay, good.
Yes, I am very good. We will send out a doodle poll. I did want to respond to that public comment about graduation. I shouldn't be the only one in the organization to have to tell the public that I'm sick, but that's why I didn't attend, so.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Anello. And so we'll get a doodle poll going around and we'll get going on this. Sounds good. Thank you all for everybody's input into this. I think I feel really good with where we landed. And so we'll figure out, it'll be a special meeting and it'll have one item and it'll be a closed session item. And then, so next up, we kind of talked about this already, board self-evaluation, Trustee Hernandez. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I added this one on there because at least the way that I conceptualize the governance of the school board is I feel like, right, there's two sides of a coin. There's a superintendent and then there's the school board. So I think it makes sense for us to also evaluate how we've been doing over this past year. And then also set with this, similar thought process that we also need to set goals for ourselves so that we have something to base off how we've been doing and how we want to be doing as a board in the future. So it'd be great to, have another meeting based off the conversation we had before. It sounds like it'd be great to have another meeting to kind of set some goals for ourselves as a board and then be able to use that to both look back and look forward.
Trustee Dr. Lewis?
I believe I'm understanding you, but I want to be very clear. And we're saying the board in total or individual board members with the evaluation before?
That's a great clarification. I would say the board in total, because that's the only way that we have any kind of power here, right? As an entire board.
And I feel like this would, I mean, I don't want to make any assumptions, but I feel like this fits in so well with our board governance kind of discussions that we had started. So I wonder if we can have a special board meeting, work study session, I don't know what we would want to call it, separate again to come up with some goals for ourselves in the public. Would that, what do you think about that, Trustee Hernandez? Or do you think this should be something that's added to a regular agenda? Or does it not follow the governance training that we did?
I think similar to what Trustee Hack said, I think it's hard to gauge how long this conversation is going to go. And I think it'd be great to kind of separate this out probably into a separate meeting because I think it's challenging to know how long it's going to take and where the discussion is going to go. And I think to just toss an hour or even in the middle of a regular meeting could extend our regular meeting by a lot.
Yeah. And I think if that is the consensus, maybe this doodle poll can be used for both of those and that would make it easy. My only thing is Ms. Anello there's another public comment. I'm going to quick pause real quick. There is another public comment that just came in on 9B. So does the board want to go back to 9B and hear this public comment, or do we want to go through and then circle back?
The only caution I would have is there's a cutoff time for public comments, and we list that on our board website, I believe, Ms. Cavallero, but you can jump in. So whatever we do, I would caution the board to be consistent with what we put out.
I didn't read the whole message. I see that did it just come in, Ms. Betancourt?
That is correct. It was just sent directly to my email.
Okay, could you forward that to the rest of the board so that we can see it? But our cutoff time's 4 o'clock. But I do think it's
That's fine.
important for us to see.
Okay.
You know, the reality is, if it's supposed to be a public comment, it should be a public comment, but it's not appropriate tonight. It should be appropriate at the next board meeting.
Mhm, exactly. All right, and so, sorry for that slight deviation. So back to the board self-evaluation. I think the doodle could be used for both. My thing is would we want to have somebody help facilitate? And would we want it to be the same person? Because that might add a wrench in terms of scheduling. So I kind of would pose this to Trustee Hernandez. Do you, because we could get those consultants back. We can ask our mindfulness coaches to come in and help us. I think we have people internally that can help us goal set, but I also really liked the people we worked with. But I kind of pose this to you since you had a vision for this.
Yeah, I think I'd be open to either of those. I do like the idea of maybe using our mindfulness people or, other district staff who have a little bit more intimate knowledge of our district. But I think I'd be willing to, see what the consensus is among everyone else. I don't think I have a strong preference on that as long as, I think maybe the one thing that I would caution us to make sure to do is to have a strong framework of what it means for us to set goals. Because I think it's easy to get lost, make like 20 goals, 4 goals. What are the goals about? Those kinds of things can be really helpful. And so I do think, some kind of facilitator that's going to add structure is important.
Yeah, and I know that our that team is probably crazy busy because of the rollout of PBIS through all the schools, mindfulness, toolbox, all the words. But I would love to have them back. But Trustee Rocha, you look like you wanted to say something.
I was agreeing with Trustee Hernandez. I have a feeling that we have our own staff that we could do it with. And I don't believe that we'd have a problem anyway, just doing it on our own.
I kind of agree too. Ms. Miller, I want to ask, so there's consensus to bring somebody from internally, but what do you think?
Well, we definitely have a tool that's out there that's widely available that the board can use. So I think we can do this. I think we can do it internally.
Mm-hmm. But if we wanted to bring in because I really liked the activity that we did for our budget study session. And I think that, I don't know, it would be nice to have somebody help kind of guide us who's not us.
Right. I would love to, we have some internal staff who, work, like you said, with restorative justice and all of that. They would do a great job, I think.
Yeah. So could we ask them if they would be willing to come in again and help us make some goals? I'm sure they would be so excited for that too.
Oh, I think they would love it. And I would love it.
Well, and I mean, they're our people, so they know our district. And so I think that would be helpful. But I also wanted to just honor Trustee Hacker, Trustee Dr. Lewis, if there's anything. It sounds like there's consensus to add this to the doodle poll, to have there be some type of a goal setting for us as it relates to an evaluation down the line, and to have our internal restorative justice folks who joined us for our budget study session join us for this. They're available. So that's my understanding. But Trustee Dr. Lewis or Trustee Hack.
I think that's a great idea, and I think I don't want to muddy the waters further, but I was going to say even having public comment, public input, because again, we're public servants, and while we are beholden to the district, of course, absolutely, and all those things, but I think it's also important to get that public voice. And again, full transparency, I'm my heart's with the kiddos, so. But again, I also don't want to muddy the waters because I understand how complicated goal setting is. So, I think having an internal person is great.
it would be a public meeting, so the public can give us a comment whether we want to muddy the waters or not. Trustee Hack, does this sound okay to you? Any other kind of, any other comments before we move on from this?
You know, we can go either direction. I think we need to make a decision as a board, which evaluation do we want to deal with first? Do we want to deal with Stephanie's evaluation, which is a yearly process, which is at 18 months, it has not been done, probably needs to be done. I don't care, I'm comfortable with whichever way we want to go. To do a self-evaluation, that's a personal thing and helps the board. But so we have an evaluation that deals with the district, we have an evaluation that deals with personalities. Different process, which is a priority, because you can't do both at the same time.
Yeah. I think this doodle poll and whatever availability we have will determine that, as well as the availability of other folks. So, yes, Trustee Dr. Lewis.
So am I understanding right? The doodle poll will then capture both days, or is it one meeting for both activities?
I would say 2 separate meetings, 2 totally separate meetings, but just like I was just thinking for ease of our scheduling, it'd be easy for me to be like, I'm available on all of these days. And so that day we can have the superintendent evaluation, and that day we can have the other one, or but whatever works, you know. Just trying to make less work for all of us, honestly. And Kelly.
I would suggest to you to say we're going to do these in 2 meetings is not needed. It'll take much longer than 2 meetings to go through both processes. Maybe the self-evaluation is 1 meeting. I certainly would think that'd be the beginning of that process. I don't think it would be done in 1 meeting. The superintendent's evaluation, I've been in evaluations that take 6 hours, and I've been in one that took 50 hours. Well, I don't know where I'd be, you know, in terms of this. So I don't think you can commingle the 2 of them. You have to make it a priority and go 1 and then deal with the other.
Trustee Dr. Lewis.
So Trustee Hack, if I'm understanding you, this first meeting that we're scheduling would be, the aim would be to develop the goals with the understanding that there might be additional meetings for the development of the evaluation, if I'm understanding you correctly.
I would think you'd be correct. It would not be done in 1 meeting.
Okay.
The other thing is on the superintendent's evaluation, however we schedule it, that's not going to be done in 1 meeting either. That's going to be probably much longer, depending on whatever.
Good thing to keep in mind, for sure.
I'm happy to send out, sorry to interrupt you, my apologies, but I'm happy to send out a doodle poll. I'll send out 2 different ones. When would you like to meet? What days for both of those items? And we'll find out from you when you want to meet on what one first, if that makes sense. Not to mention.
Yeah, I think that'll really depend on just when the folks who will help us facilitate, when their availability is as well. So maybe we could send the doodle poll out to them too, just to see. That way it'll just be easier. And then, yeah, and then we'll just determine the order based on that. Cross that bridge. I think we got the ball rolling on this. So Trustee Hernandez, before we move on, I just want to make sure that for your items that you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. We have 2 meetings that we're going to set, and I think that's a good next step, and we're ready to move on.
Perfect. Thank you, Trustee Hernandez. So next up is my item, Bay Area Community Resources presentation. BACR is just an organization that we have had, that we've partnered with a lot. And they gave a presentation back pre-COVID days. And I would like to just invite them to give another presentation again. And I know that we've wanted other presentations, but I just wanted to put this on to get your guys's, hopefully get a consensus on that. And then I think that, I think that there's something to be said for maybe having other presentations at the following meetings. but I don't know what folks think. Do you have strong feelings one way or the other on this? Or if it would be okay for the superintendent to invite BACR and just what they're doing and how that is remote. Like that would be one thing I would like to learn a little bit more about. I know they're hiring like crazy too, so I just, yeah. Do folks feel particular one way or another? Is it okay? For,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I remember that we spoke about principals even coming forward with their programs to introduce us to them, because we don't always know what's going on, within our own schools sometimes. We hear them, we pass them, we okay the programs, but which ones are out there that we should be aware of?
Yeah, it almost leads me to think like maybe there could be a consensus reached that we just implement that again and just kind of, yeah, sorry, Trustee Dr. Lewis.
Yeah, so I actually had a conversation, I believe it was with Trustee Roach. I know it was Superintendent, maybe it was in our agenda meeting. I can't remember. It's been a few months now, but we did have conversations around having principals come in and speak around sort of a pulse check of their individual, of their specific sites. And then that'll allow us to understand some of the needs of the district, and it would also inform the way we make decisions, because as you just said, we're making decisions based on the assumption that schools are operating in a certain manner, and if that's not true, or if it's happening in one school and not another school, we need to be aware of that, so that way we can support everyone. And also, these things can bring up other directions that we might consider as well. So I think that that's an excellent point, and I believe that conversation was happening. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and I think that we, with this, even though it's about BACR, which is, a very specific presentation request, I do think that we can give direction to the superintendent if we choose to continue having more presentations. Because BACR, it's like a district like program, right? It spreads over a lot of different school sites, but then like, how is that operating? I want to hear what Antioch High School has to say. I want to hear what all the individual sites who have that, program or whatever, what's going on at their school. So I really like that. Previously Superintendent Anello, it was just based on folks' availability, right? Like you would ask folks to come do a presentation. I know sometimes we requested it, but generally it was just that we always wanted a presentation and whoever we could get, right?
It was generally, and I'm thinking back, it was generally if they had a program that the board was not aware of, we would bring that school forward to talk about it if it was successful, so that other schools could hear about it, the board would know about it, the public would know about it. But we're looking more at a rotation this upcoming year.
Yeah, and so, what do folks think about, so it sounds like BACR makes sense to invite them to do a short, 10 minutes or less presentation on their program. And then it sounds like there is interest in continuing to fill up that presentation section of our agenda. How do we feel about the direction that do we want it to be the new programs? Do we want it to just be, do we want to have there be like maybe a list that we request? I don't know what folks think in terms of that. Yes, Superintendent.
I think that the last direction we received was that for this year, we would start rotating schools, not by new program, but just like, hey, 3 schools, you've got 6 minutes, give your elevator speech. What's the best thing you're doing that you can share with us all? I think that came at one of our previous meetings. So that was kind of what we had planned, if the board's comfortable with that still.
That sounds
Yeah.
to me. Yeah, Trustee Rocha says yes. Trustee Hernandez nodding his head. Trustee Dr. Lewis. So yeah, definitely. Okay, good. Thank you for
And we can
reminding me.
include BACR. BACR is part of all of their schools, so definitely have that as well.
Exactly. And so yeah, that sounds great to me. Yay, wonderful. All right. So moving right along, we have a bunch of resolutions for first reading. Folks who are listening might remember that what we do at the beginning of the school year, we like to adopt all of our resolutions for the whole year, and then each month we read them aloud. This just allows us to kind of honor the whole month or the whole week ahead of time, not like when it's already ending. So my proposal would actually be that there be a motion made to consider all of these at once, but I'm also okay with doing them one by one, whatever the board.
I accept that. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I agree that I think we should just cover them all at one time, and if that's necessary, I'll say I support the resolutions for the first reading of A through H.
Wonderful. So motion made by trustee Rocha to
I'll second.
approve all,
Oh.
seconded by trustee Dr. Lewis to approve all the resolutions under 10, A through H. So Ms. Cavallero, can you call the roll?
Yes, but I did want to note that they are on the agenda as a first read only.
Forgive me. So then we don't meet, I mean, can we? No, we can't, huh?
First reading.
I think you can.
So then we could just approve these now so we don't have to go to a second reading. Okay, so I
If not,
apologize.
if we're wrong, we can bring them back.
They are actually listed on the agenda for information and discussion.
So we
Yeah,
can't.
then you can't,
No, we can't.
And can I also
Right.
make one other note that these are just for the first half of the year. They're not for the full year. So this will take
Okay.
us up through December.
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you. So then my apologies, everybody. I'm like, resolution, first reading. So we'll look at these again next time and we'll be able to take action on them and it'll be the first 6 months as Ms. Ibarra said. So my
Okay.
apologies. These ones are action items. So 11, resolution for immediate action. We need action on these. So item A, we see these PIPs periodically. So resolution 2021, 2210, authorizing provisional internship permits. So Ms.
Yes, especially at the beginning of the year. We do have teachers who cannot begin the school year, and having the summer off is sometimes very difficult. So I would ask the board to approve these provisional internship permits. This allows the teachers to be earning their credential and working and being in the labor market at the same time. So I would ask the board to approve this resolution.
I'll take the the two if you'd like. I move A and B resolution.
Is that I just want to ask Ms. Romeo, would that be okay or would you prefer separate?
Yes, that's okay. I would just speak on B is about teachers teaching outside their credential. We bring as many
Correct.
as we can in the spring, but these are those that we have hired over the summer or have recently found out that they will be teaching outside their credential.
Correct.
So there's still a motion on the table, but trustee Dr. Lewis?
It's just a clarifying point. So they can teach outside their credential area, but in a related field. So-
They have to be able to, the Ed Code provides, these are generally areas that do not have a standalone credential. So they have to meet the criteria under Education Code to be able to teach because it is something in addition to their credential. But they could have met that criteria by coursework in college that is separate from what they did in their credential area.
Absolutely. I just wanted to make that clear for the public. So that way it's not saying that, we're going to hire somebody with a credential and then they're
Correct.
teaching, philosophy or math or something. So just wanted
Thank
to
you
be
for that
transparent.
clarification.
All right, then there's still a motion on the table from trustee Rocha to
I'll second.
approve both of these resolutions. And then that is going to be seconded by trustee Dr. Lewis. And then just remember those clarifications that we just said, the PIP, that's for our newer teachers. And then the outside of credentialing, these are our teachers who are already here. So very typical resolutions that we have. And so with that, Miss Cavallero, if you could call the vote, that would be great.
Trustee Hack,
Since I was both, absolutely for both of them. Yes.
thank you. Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
President Householder,
Yes.
Vice President Lewis,
Yes.
Trustee Rocha.
Yes,
The motion to adopt Resolution 2021-22-10, authorizing provisional internship permit, and Resolution 2021-22-11, authorizing instructors to teach outside of credential authorization for the 2021-22 school year passes 5-0.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Item number 12, resolutions for second reading and action. We don't have any. 13, board policies for first reading. We don't have any. Second, we have a couple board policies for first reading and immediate action, which all just seem to be, regular,
Yep.
CDE updates. But Miss Anella?
Yeah, I was going to say, all of these reflect changes in law that need to be implemented. As you know, on July 9th, the governor signed the trailer bill language about independent study. So all of those deal with that. Uniform complaint procedures also annually get updated. So I would ask the board to approve these as a whole item.
Their information.
Yeah, I would entertain either a motion to approve all items under 16, which, as Ms. Anella said, are really just more technical updates. Or we can go through one by one, whatever the board chooses.
I'll make a motion for A, B, and C together.
Okay, motion
Is
made
this-
by trustee Hack, ABC, sorry.
Clarifying point, 14 or 16?
16, did I say 14? I probably did.
Oh,
my gosh,
okay.
I'm so sorry if I did. I meant 16.
14.
We're on 14.
we're on 14.
It is
No, I
14.
messed it up again.
It's okay.
14. So 14, A, B, and C. Same, yes.
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Dr. Lewis. All right, so motion made to approve item 14A, B, and C by trustee Hack, seconded by trustee Dr. Lewis. So if Ms. Cavallero can call the roll for us.
Yes, Trustee Hack,
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
President Householder,
Yes.
Vice President Lewis,
Yes.
Trustee Rocha.
Yes,
The motion to adopt revised board policies 1312.3, 5113.2, and 6158 passes 5-0.
Great, thank you so much. Next up's board policies for second reading and action, which is item 15. We don't have any. This is truly item 16 now. Information items for general information. So we have a couple. First one being the revised Administrative Rule 1312.3, the uniform complete procedures. I would think maybe Ms. Ibarra on this one.
I can take this. So these really, board policy is the what, and this is the how we're going to implement it. So what you just approved, this is just for your information of how we are going to go about accomplishing that. So there's no need for a motion on this item.
So any questions from folks about the uniform complaint procedure changes? No? Okay, let's move on to B. Same thing. So, but this is administrative rule. It's same thing, but 1312.4. Any questions? Seeing none. Okay. Moving on. C, Administrative Rule 5113.2, which is work permits. Any questions on this one? Nope. Seeing none. And there's a bunch of information in here for folks following along if you guys are curious. And then the last one on this item is Administrative Rule 6158, which is the independent study. As Ms. Anello noted, July 9th, we got that trailer bill language in. Is there any questions on this one? I know this was relevant to us, but okay. Well, moving on then. future agenda items from board members. So I had talked to Superintendent Anello about this, but I just wanted to say for the public, I am going to be requesting like a data person discussion about personnel to help with some of these new funding streams, as I noted earlier. I just wanted to, and it's going to sound much better when I actually write that down. But is there anything else that folks want to add to a future agenda item? Trustee Dr. Lewis?
So last year we had conversations around ROTC, and I was on, you know, I know that last year sort of got busy, but I would like to continue that conversation. I believe that we're at the point where we're going to get a report out in terms of the requirements and sort of an update.
We did.
We did.
It was in our Friday letter.
Well, right. I mean, like a sort of a public presentation. So, because again, these are requests coming from the public. And I think that it's important that we have that conversation before we move that to items for action. So
ROTC.
Just a presentation on where we are, the needed requirements, and whether or not we can meet those requirements.
Okay, great. Trustee Rocha.
Okay, a year ago, we did a little camp, or should I say we supported at the board level the issue of attendance, and attendance is a very important piece. Now we're back to school again, where we're all coming in, I hope, all our students. So I wondered if we might do that again, where the board level takes into action a resolution or whatever you want to say it, that we support attendance, maybe even a campaign on it to see how our schools are going to implement, how they get the attendance up, because it's one of the issues that's always a problem for us concerning attendance.
Any other items? And you can always send these to Superintendent Anello too. Okay, so ROTC, attendance, and data, the three. So additional comments that exceeded the first 30-minute session. I know that we didn't exceed the first 30 minutes, but I did just want to make sure, because there's technical glitches. Were we able to read all of the ones that we wanted to? Okay. Superintendent Anello is nodding her head up and down, so we do not have any additional comments. Reports and comments from board members. And so why don't we go in opposite order? So we'll start off with Trustee Rocha. Anything to report?
Well, I am concerned because I think Dr. Lewis and I attended a meeting, a city and school, and if this is where we're supposed to report, then I think we should give that report. Basically, I'm doing it from memory, and Dr. Lewis, maybe you can help me, but I'm concerned that we haven't heard anything, or maybe at the next meeting coming up, which is just about next week, I think, we'll hear about this traffic study. We asked for a traffic study for safety for our students. We asked support financially for our crossing guards, which we did not hear back from them, and we ended up having to put the money up because we have to have crossing guards, but we can't cover all the spots. And we asked for safety crossings. So I'm not sure where we're at that point, but I'm sure this is something that we're going to be looking at the next meeting for the city and school. Anything you want to add, Dr. Lewis? Because I'm doing it from my memory.
Right. No, I think that is pertinent. I mean, the goal of the meeting was to engage in conversation, and we did that. I think that it started off with, and again, full transparency, I was a little late, as I mentioned, because I was, stuck in traffic for about 3 hours. But yeah, so that's the piece that I was there for. Having the conversation around a traffic study and whether or not we could get that. I believe that we'll have that discussion in the next meeting, which is next week.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we'll report at this location the next time for our next meeting.
Any other comments, Trustee Rocha? or reports? Anything
I
coming
can
up? that you
comment.
wanna-
I can comment that I visited 7 schools. Mission was important, was very interesting. The line was way out. This is the first time for our new principal, but everything was well organized. The families were happy to be back, and the children were excited. And I mean, I felt it. I enjoyed it. And the other visits that I made just walking into the school and maybe talking to the principal and then walking out. So I didn't spend the time that I did with Mission. That was it. Thank you. Oh, and Feel the Bus, but I think Dr. Lewis will talk about that.
And so, Dr. Lewis. Go to
So
you.
similar to Trustee Rocha, I've been spending a lot of time visiting campuses. My kids are at, well, I won't mention where my kids are in a public meeting, but my children are in the district, and the school site where they attend, I work very closely with the principal there. I'm on the school site council and all those things. So I am visiting the schools, and I do want to sort of reiterate for those. I know there was a comment earlier around the graduations. It was great to see the other trustee at the graduation in the summer. And we were in communication with Superintendent Anello, and we were aware of why she wasn't there. So I do want to sort of say that publicly. So glad to see you're back, Superintendent Anello. Also, this past weekend, we had a Stuff the Bus event with Clarissa Wilson. She coordinated, I believe this is the 9th year. And that's, it's a collaboration with the Warriors. I believe it was, as far as I know, there was about 4,000 families who received backpacks. So we were there. It's a great time. I believe this coming weekend is another event. I don't know if Trustee President Householder will mention that, so I'll hold off and let her mention that one. So this summer was about getting out and sort of engaging the community, because we were able to sort of see folks face to face, and I've been doing a lot of that. So if I haven't come to your site, look for me soon. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And now we get to visit the sites. I'm really excited for that. So next up then would be me. And so, there is another school supply giveaway, as Trustee Dr. Lewis noted. This is Mayor Thorpe is hosting one at the Sycamore Square, which is on the corner of L and Sycamore Street. I will say that I have been in several meetings now with some of the business owners in that Sycamore area. And I have been a pretty relentless advocate and reminder that we do have a lot of kids in that area. And so I do feel very lucky to even just be able to be there and remind them that the school district needs to be a part of these conversations. At this point, there's nothing substantive to report out other than there has been a huge citywide effort focused on this particular area. And I think I don't need to explain to all of us here that corner for our kids, I mean, it gets really hectic during the school year. And so there has been a lot of focus on that. And right now it's just like letting the folks who maybe aren't doing the most above board activities to know that we are out there and we're focused on it. And so with that, there is another school supply giveaway, 1:00 this Saturday in the Sycamore Square. And I think, and then the only other thing I want to mention, just to follow up from the bicycle garden, we're continuing to have those conversations. And Mary Rocha, very soon I will be emailing you because the Parks and Rec Committee has been asking about you, because I'm like, Mary's got a lot of great things to say. So expect an email or a phone call soon. But those conversations have been going really great. Where the work group has gone now is they are going to have a series of public meetings to get the input on where the bicycle garden should go. And so I will share with the board and with the community as soon as those dates are finalized. The first community meeting is going to be actually a panel discussion. And each one of the members of the work group, myself included, are going to kind of explain a little bit of our own perspectives. But yeah, that's been moving along. It's been going really well. The work group has gotten a lot of support from folks. And so I will definitely let everybody know as soon as those public meetings, and there's a Parks and Rec committee that is really going to be the main driver of the next steps. And so, yeah, they really want our involvement too. And not just mine. So that's it for my reports. Trustee Hernandez. And comments too, not just reports.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, it's great that school's starting back up and that we're back in person and that we're able to provide this education to our students. And then the other comment I had is as we're starting this new year, I know I've mentioned it in the past, but I'm really big on mentorship and leadership coaching, and I no longer am in my formal role doing leadership coaching. So I'm a lot more availability to mentor and support students. So if any, you know, staff, parents, students themselves are listening and anything about me resonates with you and you're looking for additional coaching, mentorship, and things like that, please feel free to reach out to me. It's something I enjoy and like making a big part of my life.
Trustee Lewis, you are raising your hand.
So I would be remiss if I didn't say this publicly. I want to congratulate Trustee Hernandez. He had his white coat ceremony, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. And for those who don't know, he was accepted into UC Davis's medical program. So we will have another trustee that's a doctor. He will be a MD, so he can actually save your life. I can just help you think. So much, you know, so I'd be remiss if I didn't sort of send a congratulations and sort of a heartfelt, congratulations. So I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you know, sometimes helping people think can also save their life. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We've got some really amazing people on this board, and I think I can say this pretty confidently that all of us, if anything speaks to you about any one of us, reach out. You know, I mean, we have one doctor, we have somebody else who's gonna be a doctor, we have someone who is literally the first Latina voted mayor. You know, we have Hack, who's like through and through teacher, educator. So we got a lot of cool people on this board. On this,
and we have a policy expert. Come on now, give yourself some kudos as well.
Next, no, just kidding. Thank you. And then Trustee Hack, I know you gave us your out and about report. I loved reading it. Any other comments or reports?
I want to say to Antonio, go Aggies. Go Davis. I'm an Aggie too. That's great. I also want to talk to the board about thinking of, we've got X number of thousands of kids back in school. We've got employees are certificated and classified, and they go there and they wear their masks. I would like us to consider starting to have board meetings face to face with a mask. Somewhere, somehow, because I'm getting really tired of seeing you just on a screen. So just for that. And also, I made a big mistake. I live fairly close to an elementary school, and I've been going to see schools out and about and all that kind of stuff. And I think it was last Wednesday, I got out with my dog in the back of my car, headed out for our daily romp at 10 minutes to 8. And I got stuck in the traffic at Sutter School for 30 minutes in 2 blocks. Bad timing. But school is starting and we're all good for that. So that's good. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Madam
Trustee
Chair?
Dr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
But Trustee Dr. Lewis had his hand raised first, if that's okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I keep interrupting, and apologies for jumping in front of you, Trustee Rocha. I did want to have a conversation for something came up, and I think that it would be something. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but you know, I've seen it happen a couple times where we've seen unhoused or unsheltered people sort of migrating to our school sites, and I think that a larger conversation around how to address that and how to support our principals can be had. Particularly around school safety. And again, I will completely share my bias. Is that when I was a kiddo, one of my friends had an interaction with somebody that had a mental health challenge. So I have, sort of a heightened awareness around the subject. So maybe if we can add that, I'm thinking about it now with Trustee Hack's comment, if we could sort of add that to an item for future conversation for the board. So apologies for bringing it up last, but I think that's an important conversation for us to have.
Yeah, so like unhoused residents, maybe let's workshop it next Tuesday or during our next agenda meeting. But I think that's a good point. Trustee Rocha.
Actually, Trustee Hack brought up an issue. I had mentioned it once before that I think at Sutter, at Mission, when you have that much traffic coming into a school in a housing area, we should have a sign further back that says, during this time, school lets out. I mean, something that identifies that you're going to get caught in a traffic jam. And it's prevention. It's just a way. And I know I mentioned it before, but I don't know where. I'm afraid I didn't follow it up. But I think it would be nice just to have a sign.
I want to ask as an item for discussion.
Yeah, and before I leave this, I want to thank the police department, our city, because our police department gave out 400 backpacks to our students, especially they were identifying foster children, and also clothing. They actually had sizes of the clothing that was needed for them that were going back to school. So I thank you to them.
Yeah, and then this all just made me say I got to give a shout out to AEA, our teachers union, as well as everybody who sat at the bargaining table. The MOU for this upcoming school year was literally approved the night before school started. And I know that there was a lot of work to be done. And I really appreciate reading the MOU because it's very clearly written and it helped add more specifics to the world that we live in that's vague. So I posted the contract on my Facebook page, on all my social media. Anybody listening is curious, it is actually very easy to understand and gives a lot more granular detail and will probably answer whatever question you have about some of our procedures. So thank you, Ms. Romeo, for sending that to us and everybody, the president, Ms. Luke, and everybody else who's involved. So with that, future meetings, the next two that we have is August 25th and September 8th. And then with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So I so move.
Moved by Trustee Dr. Lewis, seconded by Trustee Hernandez. Ms. Cavallaro, can you call the roll?
Trustee Hack,
Absolutely.
Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
President Householder,
Yes.
Vice President Lewis,
Yes.
Trustee Rocha.
Yes.
The motion to adjourn the meeting passes 5-0 and it's 9:12.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.